right, hey teachers, Aaron Whitehead here, wanting to give you a little bit of a tutorial on setting up your Zoom account to run your classroom on Zoom. There's some settings you can put that will help make your life much easier, and so I'm going to kind of show you the way that I recommend you set up your classroom. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to log on here. I'm going to open the Zoom program on my computer. There are a few different ways to get into Zoom. One is through their website, which I'm going to do in a minute, and one is through the computer, the program actually being on your computer. So what I'm doing right now is I'm opening the program onto my computer. That's the best way to run the meeting versus running it on the website. Running it through the web is a little bit laggy and can create issues, but running it through the program on your computer is going to give you the most stable connection and help you out the best. Okay, so this little dialog window comes up. I could just go straight to join a meeting, but to really get to my settings and do all the things I want to do, I want to sign in. So I'm going to click sign in. You may have a Zoom account set up. You can do that. Or if, like for me, our district has purchased Zoom, and so we have our district account that allows us to log into a Zoom account. So I'm going to click sign in with Google. And this allows me to use that account that I've been given because I have a Google email address that I use. Okay, so here it is. I'm going to use this one, and it is asking me. So this is kind of what I was talking about. There's the web version, and this is through the web, but it's asking me, can we open the Zoom account or Zoom program on your computer? So I'm going to say yes, open that, and now here it is. It's bringing me to kind of the home screen in the app on my computer, okay? And I'm going to jump over and do some work on the web side of things in just a minute, okay? But the first thing I want to point out to you that's very important, I just discovered this as I was kind of working on some other things, is you want to check to make sure you click on your little name there, that's your profile button in the corner, and it's got my information here. You want to check and make sure that you have the latest version, because there are some things they've been adding, and if you have an older version, some of the stuff I cover won't show up. So you want to check for updates. I'm going to do that real quick. It says you're up to date. This is the latest version, so I'm good. Okay. If it's not up to date, it'll run you through the process of kind of downloading the newest version, so to speak, of the app. Okay. I'm not going to yet start a meeting or join a meeting, any of those things yet. Okay. First, what I want to do is go into the background and work on some of the settings. I could do that by clicking here. It's going to open up some settings for me, and if I click this, view more settings, it's actually going to jump me back onto the internet again. You notice it opened a new window for me back here, and if I click here, or actually let me just close this, this is taking me, so now I'm having to log in again. You're going, why am I doing that? Well, because I only logged in on my app on my computer. Now I have to log in onto the website because it's two separate things. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to sign in with Google. I'm going to choose my district account. May have to put in my, I'm already signed in, so it's got me, okay? So then it took me right to my settings. If I had logged in, there's another way to log in. Let me show you here real quick. If you go to zoom.us and you click here, sign in, okay, you're going to go through the same process, and it will actually take you here as your landing screen. Or no, it'll look like this when you actually sign in, okay? So if I had signed in through the website, it would take me here, and then I have to click here on my account, and then I'm looking now at my profile, but I may want to go down here to settings, which is when I went through the app to my settings, it brought me straight to this page. Okay, but this is where I want to be on settings. Notice I can do these settings for these different things, whether meeting, recording, or telephone. We're going to do meeting. I'm going to show you some of the ways that I like to set up my meeting to allow the safest and best control of the class, and I'll kind of show you why, okay? My district has locked this one, so everyone goes to the waiting room, which is good. I think that's needed, okay? Requiring a passcode or not, they allow us to choose that. You can decide if you want. If you don't want kids to have to put in a password, then you can turn those off. One thing that I've noticed when you do that is that you also have to change another setting. You have to go in here to meetings, and then under meetings, like for me, I had to go into my personal meeting room and actually change my passcode setting in here too. So you may, in your settings over here, turn off the passcode and find that it's still asking you for a passcode, and that's because you have to actually change it in this other place too. A little confusing, I realize, but that is what you got to do. Okay, at least if you're using this one, like personal meeting ID, which is what I was doing. Okay, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here. Scheduling a meeting means you're actually planning for a meeting to be in the future, and you schedule that on a calendar. I don't always do that. Sometimes I just use my start a meeting right away. But host video and participants video I think should be on as the meeting's getting started. I know, at least for us, participant video being on is part of how we do attendance and part of how we give participation for the students. So that we tell them we encourage them. You really have to have your video on. Okay, telephone and computer audio. I think that's a good setup. Here's a way with this these three that you see: personal meeting ID. I enable that, and then I use that personal meeting ID for when I'm scheduling a meeting and when I'm starting an instant meeting. The reason I do that is because it allows me to use that personal meeting ID to be my meeting ID for every meeting that I have. For every class that I have, I use the same meeting ID. Okay, I kind of think of it like a phone number, right? If students are wanting to call me, I want my phone number to be the same every time. I don't want it to be changing, and then I'm having to constantly send them some sort of notification to tell them, okay, this is my new phone number, so now you got to call me here, right? So if you turn all of these on, it means your personal meeting ID is the phone number, so to speak, the number that they're going to use to get onto all of your meetings. Okay? For me, it just simplifies things, so that's why I've chosen that. All right. Now we're down here into the in-meeting basic things. I suggest you turn chat on. There are some settings you can do in the meeting that control how the chat is used. For example, are they allowed to chat with you only? Are they allowed to chat with anyone? Okay, and I'm going to do another video that shows kind of in how you run it when you're actually in a call, and it'll be a classroom management tutorial, so to speak. Okay, but I like chat to be on. I don't want private chatting between the kids because that's like texting each other, so I turn that off. I do like to auto-save my chats so that in the future, if I want to refer back to something that was said in the chat, it's still there for me. I also like file transfer to be on because if I want to send a PDF or something in the meeting, it allows me to do that. Okay, some of these other things you can decide for yourself if you want on or off. Co-host I like to have because I work with the colleagues and I like them to have almost the same power that I have in the meeting. Okay, and the difference between a co-host and a host is minor, but there are some things, but that would be for another tutorial. So polling, you can decide if you want to have that on. I don't use that very much, so I can actually turn that off. Always showing the control bar in the meeting, show Zoom windows during screen share. If you don't want to be able to see the kids during your screen sharing, for example. So here's one that I changed recently. It actually will be this by default. It'll be all participants. But I don't think the students should be allowed to share their screen. For all you know, some kid's going to share their screen and show something really inappropriate on there. So I have it set to where only the host can share. And if you have a co-host, they have that same ability. They can also share. But when you come on here to do your own, it will have all participants by default. So I've changed it to be host only. Okay. This one is disabling disable desktop or screen share in a meeting and only allow sharing of selected applications. So they won't be able to share their whole screen. But again, I don't think they should be able to share anything, only the host. Okay. This may be on when you join a meeting. Annotations, that allows the students to kind of draw, which can be a little distracting. There are ways to do it and control it in the meeting, but if you don't want kids messing with your screen at all while you're doing it, you can turn that off. Having a whiteboard is part of your screen sharing and allows you to use it like a whiteboard you would in your classroom. And then some of these things I don't change and just kind of leave. So if I don't talk about it, you can assume that it can be kept by default. Allowed to remove participants to rejoin. You may want to decide that. Do you want to have that or not? I don't think that from one class to the next, so if I'm in a class with one student and I remove them today, and then I have a class with them tomorrow, I don't think that removing them today is going to prevent them from being able to join the class tomorrow, even if I turn this off. Okay, so allowing and actually this is a setting that you can adjust when you're in the call, live in the call, which my classroom management video will talk about that. Allow participants to rename themselves. Again, something that you can do on the fly in the class, which I'll talk about in the classroom management, but it's nice to have that set up that way. Now this one actually is by default set like this: hide participant profile pictures in a meeting. Okay, we had a student, I was in a meeting recently where a student was there and had taken a screenshot of a picture of the teacher as they were teaching, because I was helping another teacher, and then changed their profile picture to actually be that screenshot that they took of that picture of that teacher. Okay, obviously we don't want that to happen. Now if that student had stopped their video on the call, that teacher's screenshot thing that they took would show up as that person instead of their video feed. Okay, but if I turn this on, this is now going to hide the participant's profile picture in the meeting. So when their video's off, they won't show their profile picture, it'll just show their name, which I think is a better way to go. Because for all I know, some student's going to have really inappropriate profile picture that's going to be on display for everybody when they stop their video. Okay, so and then we keep going now to the advanced settings. There's this one that allows you to report participants to Zoom. You may want to check with your administration first to find out how comfortable they are with you doing that. Breakout rooms are good, definitely used to get into those smaller groups, so if you're comfortable doing that, you want to have that on. Remote support, you don't want that on. And again, I'm just going to kind of click through and talk about the ones that I think you may want to change. Virtual background, that allows the students to change the scene of the background behind them. You may want to decide if you want to allow that. It can be distracting and potentially inappropriate, so you may want to decide about that one. Let's see. I don't usually change any of these things, but I'm almost done here to the bottom. I want to talk about allowing live stream meetings. I have this set up to allow me to do Facebook or YouTube. I'm going to make another video that will show you kind of how to make the best of those technologies for your classroom and also keep it safe and protect student privacy and that type of thing. Okay. The rest of this is stuff that has to do with the way that you'll receive information and so on. It was automatically saving for me as I made changes. The only one that will ask you to save right on the minute is this one for screen sharing. Like, it'll ask me save it, and now it's saved, and then if I change it, anytime I change that one, it asks me to save it. Otherwise, though, you'll notice when I click this, that little green window comes up, and it's always updating it for me. So if you change your settings to be that way, in my next video on classroom management, you'll kind of see why some of them are made that way. But I find that to be the most helpful setup in your settings to maintain a well-organized and structured classroom that I know we are all wanting to have. So I hope that was helpful. Little tutorial on a recommended way to set up your settings for your Zoom classroom. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.